The rain fell in sheets across the city park, droplets dancing on the empty benches like tiny performers on a deserted stage. Everyone had scattered when the storm hit, everyone except Marcus Jenkins, who remained huddled under the small pavilion, his worn jacket pulled tight around his shoulders. Beside him sat his daughter Lily, her small legs swinging beneath the bench as she colored in her second-hand sketchbook. And across from them, a girl with tangled blonde hair and expensive shoes now caked with mud. If you've ever wondered whether a simple act of kindness could change your entire life, stay with me until the end of this story. What happens next might just restore your faith in humanity. If this resonates with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories that touch the heart. "I'm hungry," she said, her voice barely audible above the drumming rain. Those 3 words would alter the course of Marcus Jenkins' life forever, though he wouldn't know it for weeks to come. Marcus glanced down at the lunch he'd packed that morning, a simple turkey sandwich cut in half, an apple, and a small bag of chips he'd been saving as a treat for Lily. They didn't have much. Since Sarah's death 3 years ago, he'd been working double shifts at the auto repair shop just to keep their small apartment and put food on the table. Every penny was accounted for, every meal carefully planned. The girl, she'd said her name was Emma, looked about Lily's age, maybe 8 or 9. Her clothes were expensive but soaked through, her eyes red from crying. She'd appeared suddenly, running into the pavilion for shelter, explaining through hiccuping sobs that she'd gotten separated from her nanny in the park when the storm hit. "Here," Marcus said, handing half his sandwich to the girl. "It's not much, but it should help until the rain stops and we can find your family." Lily, without prompting, offered her bag of chips. "You can have these too. Daddy says sharing is what makes the world go round." Emma accepted both with a grateful smile, her small fingers trembling slightly as she took the food. "Thank you," she whispered, taking a small bite of the sandwich as if savoring every morsel. They sat together for nearly an hour, Marcus telling silly jokes to keep both girls entertained as the storm raged on. He noticed Emma's designer raincoat and the quality of her shoes despite the mud. Clearly, her family had money, unlike his own situation where he counted every dollar twice. But in that moment, they were just 3 people sharing a small space and a modest meal, waiting for the sky to clear. When the rain finally subsided to a gentle drizzle, Marcus stood. "Come on, we should try to find your nanny or your parents. They must be worried sick." Emma nodded, brushing crumbs from her lap. "They probably are. My father especially. He doesn't like when things don't go according to plan." They hadn't walked more than 50 yards when a black SUV screeched to a halt on the nearby road. A frantic woman in a crisp uniform leapt out, followed by 2 men in suits who scanned the park with military precision. "Emma," the woman cried out, rushing toward them. "Oh my God, we've been looking everywhere." The transformation in the girl was immediate. Her shoulders straightened, her chin lifted, and suddenly she looked less like a lost child and more like someone accustomed to attention. "I got lost, Margot." The rain came so suddenly. One of the suited men approached, his hand touching his earpiece. "Miss Harrington has been located. Situation secure." He turned to Marcus with a suspicious glare. "Sir, who are you?" Before Marcus could answer, Emma stepped between them. "This is Marcus and his daughter Lily. They shared their lunch with me and kept me safe during the storm. They were very kind." The man's demeanor softened slightly, but his eyes remained wary. "Thank you for assisting Miss Harrington. We'll take it from here." Marcus nodded, taking Lily's hand. "Of course. Glad we could help. Come on, Lily, time to go home." As they turned to leave, Emma called out, "Wait." She ran to Marcus, reaching into her pocket and pulling out a small, folded piece of paper. "This is for you. Thank you for the sandwich." Marcus smiled, tucking the paper into his jacket without looking at it. "You're welcome, Emma. Take care of yourself." It wasn't until later that night, after Lily was tucked into bed in their small apartment, that Marcus remembered the paper. He pulled it from his pocket, expecting perhaps a child's drawing or a thank you note. Instead, he found a check for $10,000, signed by Richard Harrington, CEO of Harrington Industries, one of the largest technology companies in the country. Scrawled beneath in childish handwriting were the words, "For the best sandwich ever." Marcus sat heavily on his worn couch, the check trembling in his hands. This had to be a mistake. No one gave a stranger $10,000 for half a turkey sandwich. He couldn't possibly accept it. The next morning, Marcus called the number printed on the check, determined to return it. To his surprise, he was connected directly to Richard Harrington himself. "Mr. Jenkins," Harrington's voice was deep and authoritative. "I've been expecting your call. Sir, I can't accept this money. It's too much for sharing your lunch with my daughter when she was lost and frightened?" Harrington interrupted. "Mr. Jenkins, do you know how many people walked past Emma yesterday? Dozens. Not one stopped to help a crying child. But you, a man who clearly has little to spare, shared what you had without hesitation." Marcus swallowed hard. Anyone would have done the same. "No, Mr. Jenkins. They wouldn't. And that's precisely why I'd like to meet with you. Not just to thank you, but to discuss a proposition. My company needs people with your character." 2 weeks later, Marcus found himself sitting in the gleaming headquarters of Harrington Industries, being offered a position in their community outreach division, a job that paid 3 times his current salary and included benefits that would ensure Lily could attend college someday. "I don't understand," Marcus said, stunned. "I don't have the qualifications for this." Richard Harrington leaned forward, his eyes, so like his daughter's, serious and intent. "You have exactly the qualifications I'm looking for, Mr. Jenkins. Integrity. Compassion. The willingness to share what little you have with a stranger in need." From across the vast office, Emma waved at him through the glass door, her smile bright and knowing. 6 months later, Marcus and Lily moved into a comfortable house in a good school district. A year after that, Marcus was promoted to head of the newly formed Harrington Foundation, dedicated to supporting single parents and their children. And it all began with half a sandwich, offered without expectation of return to a hungry child in the rain. On Lily's 10th birthday, Emma Harrington arrived at their door with a gift and a handmade card. As the girls ran off to play, Richard Harrington stood on Marcus's porch, looking out at the quiet neighborhood street. "You know," Richard said quietly, "Emma's mother died when she was 4. Cancer. For years, I tried to fill that void with things, toys, clothes, trips. I thought I could buy her happiness." Marcus nodded, understanding all too well the desperate need to make up for an absent parent. "That day in the park," Richard continued, "was the first time I'd seen her smile, really smile, in years. She came home talking about the man and his daughter who shared their lunch and made her laugh during the storm. She said it felt like having a real family again, even if just for an hour." Inside, they could hear the girls giggling, the sound of childhood untouched by loss or worry. "Sometimes," Marcus said, "it's not about what we give our children, but what we teach them to give to others." Richard nodded, a rare smile softening his usually stern face. "Indeed. And sometimes, Mr. Jenkins, a sandwich is worth more than all the wealth in the world." Years later, when asked how he went from struggling mechanic to running one of the country's largest charitable foundations, Marcus would always tell this story. Not to boast about his good fortune, but to remind people that kindness, even in its simplest form, has power beyond measure. Because sometimes the smallest acts of generosity create the most profound changes in our lives. Sometimes, the hungry stranger you feed today may be the very person who saves you tomorrow. And sometimes, a half sandwich shared in the rain can build a bridge between 2 broken families, healing wounds that money could never touch. As for Emma Harrington, she grew up to become her father's successor at Harrington Industries, known as much for her business acumen as for her philanthropic work. And every year, on the anniversary of that rainy day in the park, she would send Marcus and Lily the same gift, a turkey sandwich, an apple, and a small bag of chips, a reminder of how their lives had become forever intertwined through one simple act of kindness. In a world that often seems cold and indifferent, it's these moments of human connection that remind us of what truly matters. So the next time someone says, "I'm hungry," remember, you might just be feeding the future. If this story touched your heart, please consider sharing it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness matters. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate the extraordinary impact of ordinary people.